Saji,
Hey Peter,
nice to see you.
nice to see you again.
Welcome back. Thank you for coming back for our video series.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I thought maybe we'd start the same place we started last time with the 3 questions that we left off with. Is that okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, question number 1, we started with a question about stumbling blocks.
Right.
And I'll read the question. Was there ever a time when you embarked on a journey and things did not go as planned? And what did you do? So I wanted to share with you that back in February, I started on a journey to lose 2 inches in my waist, to go from 32 inches to 30 inches. And I was good for about 30 days. I actually called the journey that I was on my 4:30 journey because I was going to finish and accomplish it by April 30th, 4:30. And things went well for 30 days, and then I stumbled. I started drinking wine at dinner, and the rails came off and I lost focus. But I'm happy to say that I'm back on track, and I'm back on track with a new purpose, and that is to look good and perform well for my race in July and to fit into my tri outfit.
Wow, so that is your motivation, right?
That is my motivation.
Wow, that is what you go. Well, if I think of stumbling blocks, I think there's a lot of them, but I think the biggest one for me is, while I was young, I dreamt of just having, this family that would be a great family, get married to a woman that this is going to be one life journey that we're, racing together. It's going to be my own triathlon of life. And definitely, as you know, there was a stumbling block with that journey. But I can say that I'm going to pick up that race again. And I'll still keep running.
Good.
So life is filled with stumbling blocks.
Yes.
But we just have to step over it and keep it moving.
Yes. We can almost count on a stumbling block for every journey.
That's true.
So the next question has to do with culture and reflecting on a culture in your life, whether it's a family culture that you grew up with, or a home culture today, or a culture maybe at work, culture of a business maybe that you frequent often, and to ask the question, is the culture conducive for growth? And to ask if you can influence that culture, if you can have an influence on that culture. And I wanted to share with you that my wife and I recently went to the beach, and we went to my wife Kathy's favorite restaurant. It's called Northeast Kitchen in Bethany Beach. And it's her favorite restaurant because when you walk inside, it is filled with caring employees, employees that care about their customers, and owners that care about their employees, and owners that care about the community. And it is just wonderful, and you feel like everyone is working as a team, and it's just a great place to visit. And I know that there's a lot of other restaurants in Bethany that serve wonderful food, maybe even a little bit better food than Northeast Kitchen.
Is that in Delaware?
It is in Delaware, but they don't have the service and the atmosphere and the teamwork and the caring that this place does. So I think it's a really neat culture, and I'm so glad that I got to experience it and experience a great culture that I could share with you.
That is great. When I reflect on the culture, I am a very upbeat person, and I just like to smile. Whatever happens, lost my camera, just continue smiling. And sometimes I really catch myself, hey, Saji, this is not the kind of atmosphere you're trying to create. So I'm trying to create that culture first for myself, second for my family, and also for my kids to be able to know that, look, we are going to be positive, whatever life brings. And that is one culture, at least I want people to know me for, know my family for, know my company, know my business for. That look, you can be sure that you will be encouraged.
Yeah.
And you get a smile on your face whenever you're with Saji.
That's really interesting, because when you think about culture in your family, or even culture yourself, you can influence the culture in your family because you're the CEO in your family. But can I influence the culture at that restaurant. And I could do little things like send a letter to the owner of the restaurant, or I could give a bigger tip to the waitress. But it really is hard to influence a culture. But when you have a culture, a positive, upbeat culture, whether it's in a family or a business, I think that it is conducive for growth. And I know for a fact that this restaurant chain owns 9 restaurants, including this one I mentioned.
Wow.
And they're a $50 million company, and they grow 20% a year. And I think there is a correlation between a positive, high-trust culture and profit and growth.
Right. And I think it's very important, for our viewing audience that are trying to go from rust to trust, that you create this kind of culture. Just look for a positive culture. Sometimes we focus on the professional aspect of things. Let's make sure we get the accounting right. Let's make sure, but the culture is negative. And sometimes people don't see that affecting their bottom line. So I think it's a great thing to have a great culture.
Yeah.
Whatever we're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. So the third question has to do with this, one of my favorite subjects is to think about a paradigm, which I say are your thoughts about something. A paradigm that you've had in the past that has since changed, and what made the paradigm change. And I wanted to share just a recent story, and the paradigm is how I look at drinking water. And I've been going to a doctor in Frederick, Maryland, about 40 miles from here, for about a month now.
Wow.
And the last time that I went, 2 weeks ago, he said, "Peter, I've seen you several times," and he said, "I just have to share with you that you're borderline dehydrated." And he said, "You really need to drink more water." And I said, "Well, how much water should I drink?" And he said, "You should drink 8 ounces of water an hour." And I said, "Wow, that's half of what I drink. I don't drink anywhere near that amount." And he gave me a challenge to drink 8 ounces of water. I went back, and the first week I drank 8 ounces of water an hour. And I woke up on the 7th morning and had no aches and pains. I exercise 14, 15 hours a week, and I'm always sore, muscles, knee problems, and I woke up and I had no pain whatsoever. And so my paradigm shift was that water, besides being for quenching your thirst, that water was also for healing. And everyone has things that they need to be healed from. I was going to see him for a bad ankle, and he said, "How do you expect your ankle to heal if you're not drinking water?" And I never thought of water as healing. I always thought of it as just quenching thirst. So I had this huge paradigm shift.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is great. I've never thought of water that way.
Yeah.
So my personal paradigm shift, I grew up in church, and I had parents that praise a lot, and I pray too. But after some time, I began to see that we prayed a lot, but we take less action. And that begins to trigger something in me, that why is it that people who pray a lot, sometimes they don't get the result that they want? And and that's when my thinking begins to change, that prayer alone might not solve all situations. So, and I really love a particular place in the scripture, where it says, faith without work is dead. And that really changed my paradigm. And I say faith without work is just faith in action. The faith that would do anything. So I now begin to show my faith by the work I am doing. And that really, really helps me change my thinking about how I approach faith. I rather show it by my work rather than just profess my faith.
Do you think that's what they mean when they say actions are stronger than words?
I think so. Because it doesn't really matter what you say. What you do can tell me a whole lot.
Yeah. That's great.
Even if you don't see anything.
Yeah.
So that's a great paradigm shift, and it's been very helpful.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome, Peter.
So Shaji, I think that was really helpful to go through the questions, and we'll maybe continue to do that with every video, but I'd like to get into some detail on those 3 subjects, on stumbling blocks, culture, and paradigm. So
Okay.
let me just start a little bit with stumbling blocks, and and say right off the bat that I think there's always consequences for not following principles. And we talked about principles last time,
Right.
and we said principles are the boss. And when we don't follow principles, we kind of go off the road a little bit. And that's, I think, when we come across obstacles. But I think obstacles are positive, and sometimes, whether you call them stumbling blocks or obstacles, there's an author that wrote a book called Obstacles Are the Way, Ryan Holiday, in 2014, and that they really do provide opportunity for us to grow.
Yes.
Look back and look at our obstacles and then grow from there. And the story that I wanted to share is a personal story for me, that my first marriage ended 1 year after I was married. And it seemed that my wife made a bad decision. And she made a bad decision that could not be reversed. And she just did not want to be with one person. She wasn't ready to be married, wasn't ready to be with one person. But it absolutely crushed me. It was a major, major stumbling block in my mind and a major obstacle. And it took me a year to get over it. And it wasn't until I met Kathy, and Kathy and I started dating, and we've been together for 35 years,
Wow.
that I reflected back on that and said, you know, if it wasn't for my failed marriage, I never would have met Kathy. I never would have had my Katie, who's now 26 years old,
Oh my.
and I never would have had the life that I have now. And I'm so glad that things ended up the way they ended up. And so there's two takeaways for me. One is that when you stumble, and we will all stumble, as we said before, every journey we're going to stumble. But we have to get back up quickly and find the path. And the path is going to be where the growth is and where the new opportunities are. It's kind of like that expression when one door closes, a window opens. And you can't be down on the ground. You have to be up, standing up, and to be able to see the window open. My second takeaway is to always follow principles and make sure that those principles are aligned with your mission statement.
Wow, that's a very awesome story, and I really love that you shared that. You know, of course, you know my story too. You know, went through a divorce in the last 2 years, and I know you've been encouraging me that, Saji, don't worry, you're going to thank God for this later on. So I really appreciate that you shared that, and it really encourages me, you know, that though we see it negative, and I think they've never really taught us to see obstacles, stumbling blocks, as a good thing. They've never really taught us that, and I think that is that's what your book is teaching us.
Yeah.
That look look at it positively, because in the long run, it might actually work for you.
Yeah. But it's very hard to do
It
when
is.
you're down.
Yeah.
It's hard to look at it positively and say
That's
something good's going to come out of this situation, but it always does.
It always
and,
does.
and I think attitude makes a huge difference. And the fact that you like to smile and laugh, I think, is just going to get you through with flying colors.
I believe it. So I'll keep smiling.
Yeah. Let's move on to culture.
Okay.
And I wanted to introduce my contribution statement, because we talked last time about a personal mission statement.
Right.
Personal mission statement being my life mission statement, which includes work and personal. But at work, I have a contribution statement that just has to do with what I do at work. And I am called the culture keeper
The
at work.
culture keeper.
And I won't go through all this, but being the culture keeper, I think, was relevant for this discussion on the culture. That if you have a culture doesn't just mysteriously appear. Culture is based on principles, and it's based on beliefs, and more than anything, it's based on shared principles and shared belief. And everyone, we've heard the term, everyone's on the same page. Everybody's walking in the same direction. Well, principles, when you follow principles and you follow beliefs, the same beliefs, everyone's on the same page. When you have the same paradigms, everybody's on the same page. So I think that's what helps to create a culture.
That's really great. You know, and that's very correct. You know, because like thinking about my children, trying to get them on the same page, like trying to create a culture, I think it's really a hard thing to do, for them to see that this is what we're trying to see, what we stand for. And I really like this. So one thing I learned from you is the personal mission statement, to have it clear and written. And this is another thing, culture statement. I think it's a great thing.
It does give you focus on what you're here to do. Sometime when you have those tough decisions to make, and being a culture keeper, I think the hardest thing for a leader, whether you're leading your family or you're leading yourself, the hardest thing is to change a culture. If you come into an organization, or maybe you come into a family and you have to change a culture, I think it's very, very difficult. Change in itself is difficult, but you're talking about changing people's behavior and changing people's paradigms. And sometimes it means you might have to change people. You might have to get rid of people that aren't willing to be trusting and be trustworthy, because I think the most successful cultures anywhere, the restaurant I mentioned and some of the great organizations, it's because they are filled with trusting relationships. And it really is all about relationships and having trusting relationships. That's what makes a successful culture.
I just remember the quote. I don't know if I say this quote very well, but if you're listening, they said, if you can't change your people, then you can change your people. So I think that's great.
Good. So last area is the paradigms, and Stephen Covey is one of my favorite authors, and I like to quote him every once in a while. And Stephen Covey says, if you want to make changes in your life, work on your behaviors. If you want to make huge, monumental, everlasting, transformational changes, work on your paradigm. And I think that is such a great quote, and it really stresses the importance of paradigms. And I think we talked in the first video about roles, and we talked about your roles and my roles. And if you think about roles changing, when I got married, my roles changed. I became a husband. When we had Katie, I became a dad. And at that point, things that I thought about in college, all of a sudden changed. I had new paradigms because now I was responsible for someone else. And when roles change, relationships change, there's other people in your life. And I think the more you grow and experience things, the more you travel, the more you maybe have different experiences at work or personal, then you begin to maybe open up your mind to other possibilities. I think the greatest leaders, the greatest individuals are the ones that have the humility to be able to listen to other people and have their minds changed, have their paradigms changed, to see and hear something that maybe they've never thought of before and have their minds completely changed.
Yeah, I think that's very huge. Like you said, transitioning from being by yourself, single, get married, now you're a husband, and then having children, now you're a father. And I think that's really, really important. I remember there was a time I was talking to a group of young people, so I was talking to them about teenage pregnancy. So I put a picture of a baby up, and I asked them, what is that? Oh, yeah, Uncle Sanjay, that's a baby. I said, yeah. I said, but there is another name for the baby. It's called responsibility. I said, so if you know that you are not ready to change your paradigm, to say, now I have a responsibility, then don't you go near it. So it's fun to have it, but it's responsibility. So I think changing our paradigm, our thinking, really helps. Like, what are my roles now, and what needs to change? Because if we want this change, but we don't want to change, and I think that is where we get in trouble.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Peter.
That's great. Thank you, Sasha. That was a really great discussion. I thought maybe we'd just end it with 3 questions for everyone to think about for next time, and then we can start with those 3 questions when we get back together. Would that be okay?
That would be great.
Okay. The title of the chapter number 10 is called Getting to Trust, and I just wanted to talk, since we talked about paradigms, I'm really going to introduce 3 paradigms. One is dependence, one is independence, and one is interdependence. And I would like to explain that before I ask the question. And the idea of dependence, the paradigm of dependence is the paradigm of me. You are responsible for me. Okay? The paradigm of independence is the paradigm of I. I am responsible for myself. I hold my own remote control and make my own decisions. I'm responsible for my own successes or failures. And the paradigm of interdependence is the paradigm of we. We can work together. We can accomplish something together that's far greater than either one of us can do individually. Okay? So with those 3 paradigms, I'd like to ask the question for next time, to think about where do you spend most of your time? Which of those paradigms, dependence, independence, or interdependence, where do you spend most of your time? And then the second part of the question is twofold. One is, think of a time in your life when you move from dependence to independence. And then think of a time in your life when you move from independence to interdependence. Okay, and we'll share that for next time.
Oh, I look forward to it.
Good. And then the next chapter is called Leadership is More Than a Title.
I love that.
Yeah, and leadership is a favorite subject of mine. I think I mentioned in the first video that it's one of my key principles, and maybe one of the reasons that I'm sitting here as I am now. So I'd like everyone to think about who has been a leader in your life, and what traits did they display that told you they were a leader. Okay, pretty basic question. And the third chapter, chapter number 12, is about goal setting. Another favorite subject of mine. And so we're going to think about roles that we play and setting goals per role. Okay, so the question is going to be, what is a goal that you're planning to accomplish in the next month, and one that you're planning to accomplish in the next year? And what role is that goal in for you, and who is the person that's impacted by that goal? And the final question is, what will you do this week to work on both of those goals?
Wow.
Okay. So those 3 questions. I look forward to getting together next time. Did you have any questions for me before we end?
Well, I always have to ask you, because there are people who are listening, who are viewing. They want to know, where can they get this book? From Rust to Trust.
Yeah.
Where can they get it?
Of course, they can get it on Amazon.com, and they can go to the website rusttotrust.com and see a link to Amazon to buy the book. And of course, they could also contact me, and I'll be more than happy to send it to them.
Awesome. Also, and my second, maybe my final question is, what if you have people, I don't know if you ever encounter people who just think they can't change. Look, this is the way I am. I don't think I can change. I have to be myself. But you know that being themselves is detrimental, not only to them, but maybe to their family or the community. How will you encourage them that they can still go from rust to trust? If someone says, look, I can't, I don't think I can change.
It's a great question. I guess I would have to have the circumstances, but I think everyone is changeable.
And that's what I believe.
Everyone has something unique inside of them that they were put on this earth to do. And I think sometimes it just takes some patience to sit and listen to the person. Sometimes it's just a matter of asking the right question. You know, a really good coach, maybe a life coach, believes that if they ask the right question, that the person they're asking the question to will come up with the answer themselves. And a really good coach believes that the answer is not inside the coach, but the answer is inside of the person that is needing the help. So I think it really takes a good leader to listen to them and to ask the right questions, and it may not happen in one session.
That's awesome. Well, there you have it for tonight, and we hope that this will help you in your life personally, in your business, in whatever you do, to go from rust to trust. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you. Nice
It's
seeing
been
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you.